Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm. In this video, we are going to create a colored image out of a black and white photo. This is going to be really fun. So I want to import the photo first. Now, for this assignment, I'm going to be using Photoshop. These same ideas are going to apply to any other photo editing software that you can find. So if you're using Photopea, or if you're using Pixlr, or if you're using GIMP, or if you're using any number of them out there, then these still should apply. I'm going to teach you how to use Photoshop, and then you can apply these lessons to any other photo editing software that you can find. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to File, and I'm going to open as a smart object. And I found this really cool picture of Santa Claus getting arrested, so I'm going to use this. Now, as soon as I open my photo, we can tell something really quickly. This is kind of a fuzzy black and white photo. It's not the best quality, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be great quality for this project to work. And if I zoom in here, we can see that the closer I get to the image, the more I can see the pixels, right? The pixels are going to be more well-defined the closer I get. This tells me that this is a raster image, right? And all we're going to be doing in this image is we're going to be basically just changing the color of these individual pixels here, but maintaining the difference in color from pixel to pixel. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So right away I can see that I have this cursor, this no cursor, right? This is saying, hey, you can't do anything because this is technically a smart object and we haven't set the pixels yet. We haven't rasterized this image. You may have gotten that error from time to time with Photoshop. Until we rasterize this image, we can't manipulate the pixels because the pixels, as they sit right now, aren't actually set into the image. They're just kind of there, right? Once we rasterize it, then the pixels become editable. So I'm going to click here. It's going to say, hey, this smart object must be rasterized before processing. Edit contents will no longer be available. Rasterize the smart object? Okay, I will. So now my brush turns into, or I actually have the eraser tool selected, turns into the tool cursor. Okay, so I want to apply some color to this. Now, you might be thinking, hey, let's go grab this brush here and let's just start coloring. Oh no, that looks gross, right? That's not what we want, right? Because if you notice here, all I did was I replaced these pixels with a flat red color, right? But I'm covering up the detail underneath. I want that detail. That's what makes the photograph the photograph. So I'm going to go to History. I'm going to go back to my rasterize step and get rid of those things that I just did. All right. So how do we really do this? Well, let's think about it. I could use my color swapping brush over here, and I could do that. The problem with that is that I'm directly editing the photo itself, and I don't really want to destroy or manipulate the pixels on the photo itself. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this the safe way and the way that allows us the most control. I'm going to create a new, what's called a layer mask. All right. And that mask is going to be filled with a new fill adjustment layer. So let me explain what those terms mean. Down here in my layers menu, I have this little circle with a half through it, right? That is a new fill or adjustment layer. So if I click there, I have some options. I can apply an adjustment layer to this whole image to make it look different, right? I can change the hue and saturation. I can change the brightness and contrast of the image. I can invert the image. I can do all kinds of stuff. In this instance, I actually just want to apply an entire solid color onto my image. Sorry, I hiccuped a bit. A solid color. Now I need to find a good color for Santa's suit there. It's going to be not exactly pure red. It's going to be maybe a darker maroonish red like that. That looks about right. I'm going to click OK. So now what we've done is we've created a fill that sits on top of my image. It's completely on top of my image. So this is the fill itself. This white box here, that is the layer mask. The layer mask is how we can decide what part of the image below does this mask or does this fill become applied to. All right. You'll see what I mean in just a second. With the layer mask selected, I want to change the, sorry, I did that kind of quickly. Up here, we have our layering options. Normal will just make it so that all the images that are solid will block images below them, or layers that are solid will block layers below them. But instead, I could use something like a darken or multiply, or color burn or linear burn, darker color, lighten, right? Overlay is good, especially for something like this. Vivid light, difference. So I can change the layer type. I'm going to choose darken. You'll see why in just a second. Now, also with my layer mask selected, I don't want the mask to apply to the whole image yet. I want to choose only the parts that I want it to apply to. So there I can click on my properties here. And if I scroll down, I can see invert. I'm going to click invert. Now my layer mask goes away. It all turns black. And if I select my brush and I select a white color on my brush, I can just start painting in the color wherever I want it to be. Now notice that as I paint this in, I'm actually not getting rid of the detail. Some of it's kind of falling away as I paint in. And in order to solve that problem, I can reduce the opacity of my layer there so I can bring back in some of the detail. It kind of washes out my color a bit, but that's okay. That's a trade out, or that's a trade I'm willing to make. All right. Now my brush is really big, so I'm not going to want to use it for some of the finer details. And I'm actually not going to spend a lot of time making this perfect. You guys should definitely spend a lot of time making yours look as good as possible. Mine is just going to be kind of rough, right? So I'm just going to color in here. Now notice that there are areas where I've kind of colored outside the lines, right? On the officer's hands here, right over here. You can use your eraser to come in and clean up those areas. You can clean that up. Now the nice thing is we're not actually editing the original image itself. We're just editing the layer mask that we've applied, right? So it actually works really, really well. All right, cool. So that's one color. Let's say I want to start applying some more color. Maybe the officer's pants here are going to be this a dark green. Well, then I just repeat the steps. I create not a group. Get rid of that. Delete group. Create a new solid color mask. This time I'll make it a dark green color, like something like that. Make sure I have my mask selected. Make it darken. And invert my selection here. Grab my brush and begin coloring in on his pants. Now again, I'm losing a lot of detail, so I'm going to lower the opacity by a lot. Now maybe green wasn't the right color, but that's okay. You guys get the idea. So I could sit here and do this all day, but I'm not going to, because I'm not going to bore you guys. But that's really the steps. You're just going to create a new solid color fill for each new color you're going to bring in. Make this lighter. For each new color you're going to bring in, you're going to select the layer mask itself. You're going to invert it, and you're going to change the opacity, or not the fill, the opacity down to something like that. And then you're going to color in the color where you want it to go. All right. I'm going to let you guys get started on this because this is a fun project. And chances are you're going to do a couple of these because you're going to really like doing this. Oh, really quickly before I go though, I do want to talk about how to change your brush sizes because that's something we haven't really played around with. if you have your brush selected, if you come over here, we have a brush size. You can change the size. You can also pick specific brushes here. So like dry media, like crayons and stuff, or wet media, like paint brushes. We have special effect brushes, so like splatter brushes and polka dot brushes and stuff like that. I like to just stick with the general brushes for this project and just choose like a hard round brush. But you can change the size just by coming here and increasing the size. Now the hardness is going to change how soft the edges are. You may want to play around with the hardness if you have like a lot of fuzzy, let me show you. So like if there's a lot of fuzziness, this has a pretty hard edge brush on it. Oh, hello. That's pretty big. This brush has a super hard edge to it, but if I lowered the hardness and I colored in, notice that a lot of the pixels around it are getting colored in, even though my brush isn't on them. That's because it's trying to like figure out, it's doing some calculations, trying to figure out what you're trying to do. If you lower the hardness, then you're going to get a lot more of that Photoshop trying to figure out what you want it to do. But if you keep the hardness as close to possible, then, or if you keep the hardness really hard, then it's going to keep your pixels inside your brush there. Okay, that's about it for me. Have fun with this project. I kind of made his hand a little bit brown. Anyway, skin colors are really fun with this. It's really difficult to find a great skin color that's not like really orange and jaundicey. But enjoy this project. It's really, really fun. And if you get good at this, then you can actually like take old pictures of your grandparents and you can colorize them and give them to them, for their birthday or for Christmas or something. So that's an idea. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love doing this. I can sit there all day and just tweak the little, small details and make the colors perfect. So it's pretty great. Oh, also one more thing. Let's say you set this color, but you decide, I really don't like that color. You can actually go in and change the color after you're done. And so even if like you don't like the color, if it's not perfect, you can go in and change the color later just by double clicking on the fill. So this is really the best way to do it. So have fun. I'm really now, for real now, I'm going to stop talking and let you guys get started. And I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. All right. Peace.